so we did not travel. And so when I was in high school, when I started high school, the furthest I had gone was from Wisconsin to Illinois, which we live in Kenosha and you're on the border. That's not very far. So when I was a freshman in high school, I was invited to be a part of the Bible quizzing team of my church. And we were really serious about it. We had a traveling Bible quizzing team. And so that was the first time I really traveled anywhere really outside of Wisconsin or Illinois. And we drove all the way to Denver. And I can remember just waiting to see those mountains. And it felt like for hours I was asking, is that the mountains? And they said, no, those are clouds. I said, what about those? Still clouds, but they're just like, they're right there. They look like mountains. No, you'll go. And then I said, what about those? They said, yeah, those are the mountains. And so, you know when you're driving up on it, and it's just this little strip, and it just slowly starts rising up little by little. And then after an hour or so of driving, you're in the midst of it, and you look all over and you see the mountains. I mean, I was so mesmerized. I fell in love with traveling. Hannah and I, we've traveled to all 50 states. We've driven through all kinds of places because I love it. I love the mountains. I love the city though. I love going to Chicago. I don't know, some of you guys may hate it. You may hate driving there. And yeah, I hate driving there. But man, I love when you come out of the parking garage and you look up and up and up and your neck is cranked to be able to just try to see the top of those buildings. And they're everywhere. You look all over and they're just unbelievably tall. And you think, somebody put this together? Somebody thought this was possible? I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. And when we think of tall buildings, when we think of mountains, when we think of the skies, I'll tell you, I'm deathly afraid of heights. I hate heights. Have I said before, I went on like a kid's water slide a few years ago, and I thought I was going to have a panic attack going up the stairs. I hate heights, but I love planes. I love them. I don't even get scared anymore. It's just something about being so excited to see the sight, to be able to look down, to be able to fly through the clouds. I mean, it's nothing else like it. It's like there's some switch that gets turned off that says, you're in great danger. You shouldn't be up here. And the other switch that says, this is pretty cool, gets switched on in my brain somewhere. I love it. And these are some little pictures of heaven. And we know that because we've been reviewing that and we've been going over that. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And we know that there's 3 tiers. There's the skies, the heavens. There's the earth, the land where we are. And then there's below the land, the waters. We think that's not how I learned it in school. It's different. The land is sitting on these pillars, and under the land is the waters. And those waters are really chaotic waters. And above us, where the skies are, there's more waters. Death waters, chaos waters, scary waters that by the love and the grace of God, He's holding them up by this water dome that we're calling the Rakia. So strange, this picture. And we keep reviewing it because we see it throughout the Bible. Today what we're going to do is we're going to continue to think about heaven and how heaven's pictured throughout the Bible. And so here's a bit of where the story is going. Genesis 1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The day 7, and the heavens and the earth were finished. And then we have the Garden of Eden, which is like this heaven on earth place. It says the river flowed out of Eden. And we know through science that water and rivers don't flow up. Gravity pulls it down. So we imagine Eden is on a cosmic mountain that's up high, and the river flows down away from Eden. So we get this picture of heaven on a mountain. But they sin, and they're cast out of Eden. They're exiled out of Eden. And so we're led into the drama of the Bible is how do we get back into Eden? How do we get back to heaven? And I'll tell you one thing. I grew up and I thought the story of the Bible was all about how do we get to heaven when we die. That was Christianity to me, was the answer to the question, how do we get to heaven when we die? But that's not quite where the story goes. The story has the problem. We've been exiled out of Eden, but God has further plans. His plans aren't necessarily to get us back into heaven. His plans are to get heaven to us. Ultimately, to unite the skies and the land together. And there's a certain way God wants to do it. So we've got Adam and Eve exiled out of Eden. Then they have two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel. Then Cain is in trouble. And he's exiled further out of Eden. So I say out of Eden, but really what I mean is Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden, but Eden was a city. So Cain is kicked out of the city, and then he's left to wander, but he's like, I got to protect myself, and so he builds his own Eden, his own city. He builds a walled city to protect himself. It's like a false Eden. And then the story goes on, and we get the origin of Babylon. How many of you know that the Tower of Babel is the origin story of Israel's main enemy, Babylon? Did anyone know that? That Babel? This blew my mind. It's just spelled a little differently, but this is the story of Babylon. It's the story of the Tower of Babel. You guys are familiar with the Tower of Babel, right? This is a very common story. So what do? They say, let's build a city. Let's build a city, just like Cain built a city, and in the city we'll build a tower. And God said, spread. Remember, he gave the mandate. He created human beings, and he said, fill the land, fill the earth, and subdue it, and multiply, and be blessed. And they say, let's not scatter, let's consolidate, and we can do some really impressive things if we all work together. It's this building project, and there's new technology now. They're not working with stones anymore. They're working with bricks. So they can do some real impressive stuff. And so they say, let's build a tower, and they say, let's make a name for ourselves. And they build this tower, and it said that they want to build the tower with its head in the skies, or its head in the heavens. They want to make a new Eden. They want to make their own heaven on earth space. But it's not the way God wanted them to do it. God said spread. They said let's stay. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to do it on their terms. And God says, no, this is bad. This is bad. We shouldn't do this. So he comes down and he scatters them and he confuses the languages. Really interesting story, huh? I read that story and I'm like, what's wrong with that? Why is God so uptight about buildings? It's kind of a riddle. It's kind of a puzzle. I think we're meant to ask the question, why is that so bad? But if you think of it that this is Babylon, you're like, oh right, we're already kind of primed to think these guys are up to something bad. We don't want big Babylon to have a huge tower. Do you know what Babel means in Babylon? It means gates of the gods. They're making heaven on earth. I want to show you guys something. Here we go. So we've got, and then I want to show you some pictures here. Man, how nice. You don't have to see me bend down. Isn't that great? You will have to wait a little bit to see this as it loads up, but I think it's all ready. So I'm going to show you in a bit. Temples were a big deal. So when you think a big skyscraper in the ancient times, it's not like an office building. It's not like a big mall. It's a temple. It's a temple. What was this tower used for? This would have been a temple. And here's where we put what we've learned about the ancient biblical cosmology together. with how Israel's neighbors used to think. Because if you look at this, this is the remains of a temple in Babylon. What does it look like to you? I mean, if I were to say this is kind of like their own making of the cosmic mountain,